Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Assalamu alaikum. Hello and welcome to Vamos a Estudiar. Today the topic of our discussion is a bit interesting, but it seems to be difficult for you guys. That is identification tests. I divide this topic in different series so that we can slowly go through that identification test. First, we can comprehend about unsaturation, which specific tests are there for unsaturation, and then we will go for alcohols, and later on in upcoming parts or the episodes we will go through the other functional groups. So identification test is basically specific for that functional group, which make it different from that of another functional group. So whenever we're talking about the functional groups, these are the atoms or the group of atom or the presence of the double or the triple bond which give characteristics property to any particular organic compound. And obviously the part of the chain which are there, that is the chain of the carbon atom, they are responsible for the, you can say, for the physical properties, but that functional group is basically responsible for the chemical properties. And as the functional groups are different, it means that they are possessing the different function groups. We have already discussed these function groups, the general formulas, the IUPAC namings in the previous topics, and in front of you are having that whole memorization of that function groups in front of you, that for the olefins, that is alkenes, specifically carbon to carbon double bond is there, and for acetylene you having alkynes, ethynes, and carbon to carbon triple bonds are present. In case of alcohols, OH is the functional group, which is hydroxyl group. Carboxylic group is having carbonyl along with OH group, which is carboxyl group. Okay, in case of aldehydes, you are having that aldehyde groups, and ketone is having the carbonyl group and the spare valencies on both sides, and the amine obviously having amino groups. So these are just a recalling of that whole functional groups which you have already discussed in the previous topics. But now today we have to focus that which specific test we have to use to distinguish particular functional group from that of another. So first, the most two important tests which we are going through for testing the unsaturation is bromine water test and alkaline KMn04 test, which is normally called as bias test. In case of bromine water test, what you do is that you know that in the test, orange red color bromine disappears and when it is added to unsaturated hydrocarbon. But what specific procedure we are going through it? Actually, it depends. It depends that whether the compound is soluble in water or it is insoluble in water. As you know that when it is soluble in water, it means that it is having some affinity. And for that purpose, you have to use simply the compound and then distilled water and so on. But when it is insoluble in water, then you have to go for the organic, some organic solvent, selection of organic solvent. So firstly, we go through the procedure that if we suppose that the compound is soluble in water and we have to take that compound, dissolve it in 2 ml of water in the test tube and add drop-wise bromine water and shake it well. What comes in front of you is the disappearance of orange red color of bromine indicates unsaturation. And if it is a saturated compound, that doesn't change, there is no change will appear. Second option is that when the compound is insoluble in water, you have to dissolve in a small amount of given 1 ml CCl4. CCl4 is an organic solvent, carbon tetrachloride in a test tube, and then you have to add 2% solution of bromine water in it and then shake it well. Again, the disappearance of orange red color indicates unsaturation. Continue the dropwise addition of Br2 with the constant shaking until the brown color persists. Bring a rod dipped in ammonium hydroxide near the mouth of the test tube, and absence of white fumes confirms saturation. Because absence of white fumes is there, the important thing is that we are using ammonium hydroxide, because if there is a presence of chloride or something like that, it give you ammonium chloride and that white fumes will be there. So if the white fumes are there, it means that it absence of white fumes confirms that it is unsaturated compound. So second, and when we go for this whole process, the caution for this is that bromine solution should be handled carefully, because it should not be contact with the skin, because it is harmful for the skin. As second test for unsaturation is the bias test, or the alkaline KMn04 test. And what you do is that you have to take that organic compound and you have to dissolve. Organic compound is that compound which is to be tested, that actually which particular functional group is there. So you are going through that, and you have to dissolve in 2 ml of water or acetone, depending that that compound is soluble in water or insoluble in water. And then you have to add the 1-2 drops of alkaline KMn04. You have to shake it well, and when the color disappears, that confirms the process of. Okay, we come across to the second part of the functional group, which is actually alcohols. And in alcohols you are having hydroxyl group as a functional group, which is attached to carbon, but it might be classified as primary, secondary, or tertiary when the carbon attached to OH is further attached with one other carbon, and the carbon in case which is attached with OH is attached with 2 other carbons is secondary, and the third option is the carbon which is attached with OH is attached with 3 other carbons. So we are having the test. 5 important tests are given: sodium metal test, ester formation, cyric ammonium nitrate test, acetyl chloride test, and iodoform test for alcohols. 3 are discussing here in this part, and they are very important. Like first is the sodium metal test. Genuinely, if in the functional group you are having suppose in the given compound you are having acids and alcohol as well, so that test is not is the suitable one, because acids give it a negative test. Acid won't give you a positive test, but alcohols will respond in a positive way. And in that particular case, what you do is that you have to take a given organic compound, and you have to add sodium metal in a dry test tube, and the reaction will take place, and you will come to know that sodium is very reactive, and it replaces hydrogen from alcohols and forming alkoxide with the elimination of hydrogen gas. And that hydrogen gas can be identified by means of pop sound, and when you put a glowing matchstick near to the cylinder which carries that hydrogen, it will give you a pop sound. So second important test is the ester formation, in which acids and alcohols are there and react together to give you esters along with the elimination of water molecules. Okay, this whole process is called as esterification, and for the process of esterification you need a catalyst, which is an acid. How are we going to proceed a reaction is that you have to take a 1 ml of given liquid in a dry test tube, and you have to add glacial acetic acid. 2 to 3 drops of concentrated sulfuric acid is required as a catalyst, and you have to warm that whole apparatus for about a whole mixture on water bath for about 10 minutes, and then you pour it into the cold water taken into the beaker, and you have to smell it, because the smell is a fruity one, and that fruity one is the identification of presence of esters group. The point to be noted over here is that if in the given organic compound acid and alcohol both are present, so this test is not suitable in that particular case. Then you go for the sodium metal. Okay, we come across to one of the most important tests, that is the iodoform test, and that's specifically methyl alcohols, ethanol, you can say ethyl alcohol, and secondary methyl alcohols along with acetaldehydes and methyl ketones. They all give a positive response towards iodoform test. And what you do is that you have to take 1 ml of given organic compound in a dry test tube, and you have to add iodine in it, and then you have to add drop wise dilute sodium hydroxide, so that the brown color of iodine will discharge. You have to warm gently on water bath, and if the yellow precipitates will be there, it confirms the formation of iodoform, and that iodoform test is positive for ethanol, acetaldehyde, secondary methyl alcohols, and methyl ketone. And in the figure or in the equation you have seen that 2-propanol is treated with iodine along with the drop-wise addition of sodium hydroxide. You will get methyl ketone, sodium iodide, and water. Acetone treated with iodine and NaOH to give you iodoform, which is yellow precipitates, and sodium acetate along with sodium iodide and water. I hope this is very informative for you all, and inshallah we are coming with a new topic with a new continuity of identification test with a new lecture. Allah Hafiz.